Joining us online is Jake Rademacher. He is founder and president of Metanoia Films and Perseverance Productions, and he is the director of a brand new documentary titled Brothers After War, where he reconnects with his brothers and elite soldiers and Marines with whom he embedded during the Iraq War following their journey from warfighter to veteran. Jake, thanks so much for joining the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Ben. Pleasure to be on your show.
So, Jake, tell me about the documentary. Where did the sort of impetus for the documentary come from, and what does it cover?
Well, I was in Iraq with these guys in 2005 and 2006. And after, spending about 3 months with snipers and Marine advisors and the Iraqi army and being in combat with them, but also covering the war on the home front when they come home with my own family, we have taken the original film and done workshops for about 40,000 service members and their families over the last 14 years. And so in talking with Gary Sinise, our executive producer, I really wanted to go back and see how they're really doing. And so they said yes. So over the last 3 or 4 years, I traveled around to 4 continents, and I reconnected with my 2 brothers and then 10 veterans that I became friends with in Iraq.
And why don't you kind of share some of the stories that you cover in the documentary as far as what's happened to these warfighters since? Obviously, the sort of general impression of people is that after war, they have a really difficult time, but that isn't always true. So what are the kind of stories that you cover here?
Well, what's unique about this film is it's a holistic look at our veterans. Sometimes documentarians cherry pick sad stories and sort of try to jam an opinion down your throat. That's not what I did. I really was in the foxhole with these guys. And I thought it was only fair to them to kind of give a holistic account of who they are now. So one of them said there's nothing like going at the ground 150 miles an hour out on the Syrian border in 2005. So, of course, we have to cut to him now. He looks like a Viking, and he's a professional skydiver, so I'll go out the side of the airplane with him. Jen Hermanson says she doesn't like working with kids. That's why she joined the military. She's a 19-year-old intel analyst back in the day. Cut to today, I just love working with kids. Now she's working with kids with special needs. She's got a doctorate in occupational therapy in Las Vegas. Ben's trying to figure out, should he stay or should he go? He's reconning the Syrian border in a really elite unit. He decides to leave the military. He talks about all the struggles that he had when he left the military, but he made a lot of really good choices. And today, Ben owns a construction company in New York building luxury homes for the top 1% out there on Long Island. He's married. He's got 2 great kids. So the film has a lot of happy stories and successes and then how they got there. And it also goes through some of the hardships that our veterans face: loss of identity, suicide ideation, a little bit of depression. But the film doesn't stop there. These veterans are very vulnerable, but then they're also very generous with what's worked with them to get to the next stage of their life. So in the end, I think Brothers After War leaves you with a lot of hope.
So while you're making Brothers After War, is there any one particular experience that sort of stood out to you as transformative or that changed how you thought about the world?
Oh, there's so many. My brother Joe in the film opens up about being a half pound of pressure away from taking his own life. So I almost lost a second brother. And none of us had any idea. The first time he ever shared that with anyone was during the making of the film. You see that moment happen in real time. It completely caught me off guard. And he says he does that in case it will help another soldier. What's unique about Joe is the moment that he's doing that, he's an instructor at sniper school. So you have to graduate Top Gun to be an instructor at sniper school. But he talks to a couple friends at sniper school. He gets through that moment. His ex-wife took the phone call that night and eventually gets some counseling, some therapy. And today, when we catch up to him, he's gone on to be a Tier 1 operator. He's been with the 75th Ranger Battalion. He's deployed another 6 times. He's remarried. He has 4 kids at the beginning of the film. But he and his wife must like each other because by the end, they have 5 kids. So I think that's sort of a moment that really caught me off guard. And I'll share one more. I was reconnecting with a Marine, a gunner, that I had captured in a moment in the Sunni Triangle. An IED goes off. There's bullets going across the lens of my camera. Mainly it's an Iraqi unit, which I thought was interesting. Why are Syrians shooting at Iraqis patrolling their own streets? But after the bullets stopped flying, I went down the road quickly and came upon a gunner David Keniston on one knee, and one guy's got his jaw all messed up, and the medic's working on him. And then there's another guy that's got a leg wound. And I'll never forget this moment. You know, David is on one knee, this tough Marine. He's on one knee and he's caressing the face of this Iraqi soldier very gently. And he's saying, "You're going to be all right. You're going to be all right." So I wanted to return to that moment. And first, when I asked David, he kind of blew it off. But I said, "David, I was there. That was like grace on earth." And he stops and he looks down and he starts to cry. And he said, "That's because that's an intimate connection you have with another man. And he was mine. He was my soldier. It hurts." And what's extraordinary about that is going from that dusty road in Iraq to his living room today. You know, that's just the start of his piece in the film. David reached out to me a couple months after I came out to interview him, and he said, "Thank you for coming. It really helped." And I think that's the bigger picture here, the bigger point of why Gary Sinise and I are doing this. We know that movies make tough subjects easier to talk about, and we want our veterans to tell their story. And we want them to know that, hey, you talking to your family, you opening up, you communicating, that's the way to turn post-traumatic stress into post-traumatic growth.
Well, the documentary is Brothers After War. It is being released today. Where can people see it?
It's probably the widest release of a documentary about our veterans since World War II. Brothers After War is playing in 140 movie theaters across America. Regal Cinemas specifically has been very patriotic in programming the film. You can go to tickets.brothersafterwar.com. You can plug in your state and find all the cities that it's playing, where it's playing.
Well, go check it out right now. That is Jake Rademacher, who's the director of Brothers After War. Really appreciate the time, and thanks for what you're doing for the soldiers. Thank
you so much, Ben. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, folks, we've reached the end of today's extraordinarily long show. But we'll be back here on Monday for much more, and I'm sure we'll be recapping the Oscars and all the latest chaos. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show.